Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our February members meeting. We have two guest speakers tonight, Trish Neely from Lobby Corps and Trudy King from Sunday's Child. Sunday's Child is our February community partner. Just a quick reminder, if you could keep your microphones muted whenever possible, that reduces background noise. And of course, we do want you to ask questions. Please wait until the speakers have finished, and then either type your question in chat, or if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask a question during the Q&A, that's fine too. I don't think there's too many of us to prohibit us using the microphones. If you're watching live in YouTube, there's a YouTube chat, and I'll monitor that too for questions. So go ahead and type your questions into the YouTube chat. As always, the video recordings of this meeting will be posted tomorrow. We'll post in Facebook and of course over in YouTube. If you're looking for those buttons, they're in the top right corner of any page on our website, lwvpba.org. Okay. So with that, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Sam Matthews, husband of our treasurer, Joe Matthews, and he is going to introduce us to Trudy King. So take it away, Sam.
Well, it's great to be invited to introduce Trudy. As president of Sunday's Child, she presided over a record-breaking year in terms of our organization, but her history should not make that a surprise. She in her background, she's been a personal fitness instructor, riding instructor with an equestrian group. She herself is a certified personal trainer, and one of the things that is in her bio is she always wants to make people achieve their best. And she's done that with Sunday's Child. She served as a member and supporter of Habitat for Humanity, Greater Gulf Coast Arts Council, Manna Food Pantry, and Impact 100. And her birthday party organization provides parties for kids who wouldn't otherwise have that opportunity. But I know her best as president of Sunday's Child. As I said, she presided over a record year for us. And Trudy, I take off my hat to you because it's been a great year. And I know that folks in League of Women Voters will find out how much we combine with them in the aim to have equal rights for every individual on this earth. Thank you, Trudy.
Thank you so much, Sam, for that glowing rendition. I'm not sure that I deserve all of it, but thank you anyway. And good evening to all of you. And thank you for inviting me tonight, because speaking about Sunday's Child is one of my favorite things to do. I'm very proud and honored to serve as board president of Sunday's Child. We're an all-volunteer board and a working board, but it's a labor of love because we're passionate about our mission and our vision. Sunday's Child was formed in 2013 by 10 friends. Together, they sought to create a culture and community of acceptance for LGBTQ individuals in the Pensacola Bay area through giving, armed with a mission and a vision to award grants to other charitable organizations. These 10 friends formed the founding members of Sunday's Child. In 2014, Sunday's Child was organized as a 501c3 nonprofit, and in 2015, the first grants were awarded. Our mission is to promote equality and inspire inclusion across the community by awarding grants to significant charitable and economic initiatives. Our vision is a fully accepting and inclusive Pensacola that embraces the LGBTQ citizens and their contributions to the community. Sunday's Child members donate annually, and these funds are pooled at the end of the year and divided into grants of $25,000 to $50,000 each, which are then awarded to eligible local nonprofits or initiatives that address a community need while also promoting the adoption and compliance of a non-discrimination policy that is comprehensive and addresses LGBTQ individuals as well. In addition, they must show their ability to be an inclusive organization that values diversity. 100% of our membership dollars go directly into the grants account. All expenses are funded by donors, and those funds are deposited into a separate operating account. As of 2021, our members and sponsors have awarded $644,000 in grants to 25 nonprofit organizations. This year, we are so proud to give 4 grants of $30,000 each, bringing the total amount that we have given to the community $764,000 since 2015. In 2021, 4 grants were awarded of $27,000 each. We awarded grants to Bright Bridge Ministries. They needed a generator because their walk-in refrigerator freezer provides food to a lot of hungry people in the community. And if there's a hurricane or some other event, the power goes out, they are not able to do that. So they were able to buy a generator with their money that they got last year. Children's Home Societies had a program called Homeless Youth Outreach. And it seems that a large percentage of LGBTQ homeless youth identified that they are at risk of becoming homeless. They go into the community, the people at Children's Home Society go out into the community and they find the kids that are homeless and they provide them with services, or they direct them to services. They give them backpacks with clothing and hygiene supplies. So they're really doing great work. And then United for a Good Cause, their program is called Peer-to-Peer Suicide Prevention. And they are in the Pensacola area schools. They partner with counselors at the school, students, and they help identify kids who are at risk for suicide. This is an amazing program. And if it saves just one family the heartache of losing a child to suicide, then that grant's really been worth it. Gulf Coast Kids House is the last one, training for working with LGBTQ victims of abuse, because they found that maybe the techniques that they use to counsel kids who are straight kids may be different from kids who identify as LGBTQ. So they made this training happen. Well, we have 4 focus groups that nonprofits can apply for. One is health and wellness. We have animals, environment and recreation, arts, culture and education, and human services, community and economic development. And if any of you know of a nonprofit who might want to apply for the $30,000 grant, there's still time. Our letters of intention are due by February 23rd, which is next Wednesday. And our applications have to be in by March 9th. All the information that you would need to apply for a grant would be found on our website, sundayschild.org. We also present educational workshops, which are open to the public free of charge. We invited a speaker from Equality Florida to talk about safe school policies a few years ago. And we also partnered with the Council on Aging last August. They gave a really informative talk on 10 warning signs of Alzheimer's. I'm happy to tell you that I didn't have any of those signs. I was really happy to see that. In the fall, we'll host Leisha Schwartz. She's a counselor in human sexuality, and her talk will be titled, Understanding My Child's Coming Out Story, What Family and Friends Want to Know. We have several membership types. We have a single membership, which is $1,000, 1 vote at the annual meeting. A duo membership, 2 people each pay $500, and there's 1 vote at the annual meeting. Trio, 3 people at $333 apiece, and again, 1 vote. But in an effort to be even more inclusive, this year we have initiated a new introductory level membership for the first-time members. It's only at $100. That gives them a chance to help out the community, to be involved, to be philanthropists, And they get to enjoy all the same privileges and rights everyone else does who are members of Sunday's Child, except they don't get a vote at the annual meeting. So Sunday's Child is making a difference, even though we're a young organization. Our members are committed to improving the lives of the citizens of the Pensacola Bay Area. Equality for the LGBTQ community has improved in recent years in some important areas. Same-sex couples can marry and adopt children in all 50 states. In 1996, only 27% of those participating in a national poll supported same-sex marriage. Today, that same poll showed the support to be at 70%. And we had the first openly gay mayor become a major candidate for the presidency of the United States. But in some places, the harmful practice of conversion therapy has still not been banned. So there's a ways to go to get equality for all, especially for the transgender community. They face discrimination and oppression through violence and hate crimes. Sunday's Child is working toward change for all marginalized groups, with our main focus on the LGBTQ community. Equal rights will continue to be won in the courts, but more importantly, they'll be won in the hearts and the minds of people. So we strive to contribute to the community through our philanthropy and our actions. We are sharing our belief that every human being deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. It's about fairness. We've effected change locally through our grants process by calling attention to HR policies that were not inclusive. This has led to changes within these nonprofits to their policies, making them more inclusive. And some of them have converted their single occupant gender segregated restrooms to all gender neutral restrooms. Please consider becoming a member of Sunday's Child so that we can accomplish even more in the coming years. To find out more information about Sunday's Child, please visit our website, sundayschild.org. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram to see what's coming up. I'm obligated to say that Sunday's Child is a non-political group, but we advocate by building relationships in the community. Thank you so much for inviting me here today to speak on behalf of our wonderful organization. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Trudy, for coming. We appreciate your taking time out to do this for us, and more things as partners. That would be good.
So happy to. Thank you.
All right, I get the next big treat. I get to introduce our keynote speaker. And wow is what I can start with when I look at Trish's list of things you've done in your life. It's very impressive. So let me introduce you to our group. Trish Neely is the former Chief Compliance Officer, Senior Vice President, and a Corporate Secretary for FBMC Benefits Management. It's a large independent insurance broker and benefits manager headquartered in Tallahassee. She retired in 2017 after a 30-year career in varied management and executive leadership positions, and she currently works part-time as a consultant. She holds insurance licenses in 5 states and an industry certification in healthcare reform, and taught flexible compensation rules and regulations as a certified industry instructor. She has delivered various multimedia presentations on a wide variety of topics associated with employee benefits, including legal and regulatory compliance and ethical behavior. She is also an accomplished researcher and writer, producing award-winning newsletters, and her work was selected in 2009 as the best training program, and again 2012 for the best print online employee newsletter. The proposals she has written in response to RFTs, some of us know what those are, were winning bids. Trish is trained as a Florida Governor Sterling examiner and Sterling judge. She also currently serves as an investigator on the Florida Bar Grievance Committee for the Second Circuit. She is an alumnus of the Tallahassee Chamber of Commerce Leadership class of 29. She has volunteered for programs offered through Youth Leadership Tallahassee. She's taught financial literacy to Leon County students through junior achievement. She was born and raised in Ohio and has lived in Tallahassee since 1985. She is a patron of the local arts and supporter of Florida State's musical and theater programs and Theater Tallahassee. She currently serves as board chair and president of her own homeowners association. Oh boy, we know what that is. And has served on the Tallahassee Symphony Orchestra Board of Directors, Junior Achievement, Big Bend Board of Directors, and the board of the Tallahassee Urban League. Her passion is devoted to the League of Women Voters as an officer and board member of the State Florida League. She's director for the local Tallahassee chapter and chair of the lobby corps and membership committees. She is an outdoor enthusiast, lifelong environmentalist, and cherished a milestone in 2018 by hiking the last 100 kilometers of the Camino del Santiago in Spain. She has traveled widely, both inside and outside the United States, and recognizes the value of the diversity of cultures and communities. She is an honors graduate of Clarion University of Pennsylvania and was named to Who's Who in American Universities and Colleges and to National Association of Professional Women Woman of the Year. Thank you, Tricia. Thank you, Trish, for speaking to the Pensacola Bay Area League of Women Voters.
Well, first, let me just say I am so sorry that you got the long version. That's the one I used in my consulting business. I have a much shorter one that I typically use for these, but oh well, what the heck, right? All right, so all right, so let me share my screen and we'll get started here. Okay, so all of this worked perfectly when we tested, and it is not working now. Let me try it again.
Yeah, better to close it and go into it again, Trish.
Okay, all right, very good. All right, well, and thank you again for that, that introduction. So I would like to welcome Pensacola Bay League of Women Voters Change Champions, because I know that's who all of you are, to Lobbying 101. And these pictures that you see to the right were taken today. We had a voters rally in Tallahassee. You got my name with that long introduction. So it was a voting rights rally, and at the very top, you see the League of Women Voters Board of Directors from Tallahassee. So this evening, I thought I would discuss advocating for the League of Women Voters, and because I've been doing it for quite a while, offer some tips on how to advocate as well as lobby effectively. So becoming a change champion or an advocate really requires a planning, study, research, and lots of perseverance. And I hope to be able to answer what I think are probably your burning questions, right? So what is advocacy? How do I know what the league is advocating for? How do I get up to speed on the issues, and how and where can I get involved? And then finally, how do I effectively advocate for the league? And if you've signed up, I noticed you have a class next week. If you've signed up for next Thursday's workshop on Writing Effective and Persuasive Letters. This presentation will give you some foundation and context for that class. So let's talk about advocacy. What is it? Just move my screen around. So as a noun, advocacy is public support for or a recommendation of a particular cause, policy, or position. So think in terms of the League of Women Voters program and our issues. Lobbying is just a form of advocacy where we are specifically trying to influence and persuade public officials, especially our state representatives and senators. So I advocate and lobby. You advocate, and some of you probably already do, or some of you maybe in the future will lobby. We are volunteers, so we don't have to register with the state as lobbyists. Now, I thought it would be important to spend just a little bit of time on League program, because that really answers the question, what are we advocating for? League program is the basis for our advocacy work. So as a grassroots organization, League members nationwide analyze and vote on issues that then become our League program. We do this every 2 years at the National Convention, and our convention is coming up. It's in June, and I think it's in Denver, Colorado this year. I don't know a whole lot more about it than that. I don't have specific dates yet. So the national program sets the tone. And once that tone is set, then it's up to the state leagues and locals to craft complementary programs that are reflective of their specific communities. Our most recent state program, for those of you who attended the Zoom meeting last year, was voted on. I think our meeting was in April. I know I was about to head off on vacation, so it was either late April or May. And then every other year, we have state council where we have delegates from around the state. I think 2 from each of our selected leagues will meet and adjust the program as needed and also approve our annual budgets. Now, on the US League website, let me just get this out of the way so I can see what I'm doing here. So on their website, what you see at the very top are voting rights and elections. These are, hold on a second. And you also see the subcategories underneath there. These are our core issues. These are our foundational issues. These are always number one, whether you're talking about state program or national program or local program. Those are always number one. The League program also includes other important issues where our nationwide membership has urged the League to become involved. And you see healthcare reform, environment, census, and immigration. Now, if we look at Florida's program, our program is represented by the 6 broad categories that just popped up on the screen. And like the National League, we select our program every 2 years at state convention. Your local league, if you look at this list, your local league may include some or all, or in fact, you may also have expanded your list to include outside of the list that you see here. We don't have to mirror the national program. We just have to be consistent with it. So let's talk again about League program. So League program is what we work on in League. We establish action committees, and I'm sure that you've got a ton of action committees out there. We have action committees around our program. We study, we reach consensus, and we advocate for our issues. Now, I also want to talk about legislative priorities, and this can be confusing because when you're talking about program issues, legislative priorities, the question is, why aren't you talking about the same thing? So if league program is what we work on and advocate on year round, legislative priorities are what we lobby on during the legislative session. So the priorities are determined annually, and they are determined at both the national and the state levels. And if you pay attention to the action alerts that you get from our National League, what they talk about are the legislative priorities that the National League holds. For example, trying to pass the voting rights amendment that would really help us a lot in the state of Florida. Try to oppose some of these crazy maneuvers that our politicians are trying to do. But anyway, that's a national program. So the priorities, again, going back to program, the priorities are a subset of our program issues. And they are located, if you look at my little Venn diagram here, they are located at the intersection of our issues, our spotlight issues, which are here on the left, and projected legislative activities. Now, figuring out what's going to fall into that intersection is not easy. And it's something that the national board as well as our state board must do every year. So there's a couple of techniques that are used. First, you look at the prior session results. There might be something out there that's going to roll forward, or there might be a lesson learned that you can use as part of your strategy for this year. Then our board also seeks input from the grassroots. That's very important to the state of Florida leadership. So membership statewide is asked to provide what are the challenges in your communities, what's going to have the greatest impact on your communities. Then the board seeks input from our statewide action and issue chairs, and many of them are experts in their fields of study. It's really part of the reason that they were selected to be a committee or an issue chair. And many of those statewide committees are also part of broader coalitions and networks throughout the state. So there's a ton of institutional knowledge right there with that issue chair and their group. And then, of course, the board seeks feedback from Capital Alliance Group, and that is our current professional lobbying group. I'll just say from working with them over the past couple of years, that the relationships that they've been able to nurture with our policymakers is really astounding sometimes. And it has been so beneficial for us as we're up there trying to advocate and lobby on our various issues. They've paved the way for us in many instances. I mean, that doesn't mean that the legislator that we went to visit is going to vote our way, but at least we had the opportunity to speak our minds and state our position, and that's always important. So once they get all of that information, then there's a weekend where they pull together, they study, analyze, do some crystal balling, and the board selects the top league priorities for the upcoming session. It is a very concise and focused list. Unlike what you saw with our programs, either at the national or the state level. I mean, there were a lot of little subcategories under there, but priorities are very specific. Now, what happens if our predictions were wrong, or if an unexpected bill pops up? And I can assure you it happens all the time. The state issue chairs, as well as the state office, Leah, Blake, Cecile, me, we are constantly monitoring bills that are being filed and that are being calendared in committee. If we are off with our predictions, we pivot We reallocate resources and energies. It's as simple as that. That's just what you've got to do. Okay, so the past few slides, I just want to make sure that everything's clear because I know it can be confusing. League advocacy just in and of itself is involved because our programs and our issues are so broad and there are so many different moving parts. So let's do a quick recap so that you have the most important points from everything that I've covered so far. Oops. Okay, so National League program is set every 2 years at convention. It sets the tone for league advocacy work nationwide. Each state league models its program around the national program based on their community's focus. Local leagues then follow suit. We conform and complement at the local level. Annually, legislative priorities are set so that we have a basis for our lobbying efforts. Our program directs our year-round study, action, advocacy efforts, and our legislative priorities direct our annual lobbying efforts. And elections and voting rights are always the #1 league issues. Okay. So how do you get up to speed on the issues? Well, fortunately, the League of Women Voters makes that fairly simple to do because everything that you would ever want to know is out there on our websites. So there's the website for the State League, and you really only need to know that one and go to that one for anything that we're talking about because they have links to everything else. There is, right from the homepage, I mean, you might have to scroll through there, but you'll see legislative priorities. Those are updated every year, so don't think if you go out and snag it once, you're done because you're going to have to go out prior to session every year to see what the legislative priorities are. Okay, if you scroll down almost to the bottom of the State League website, you'll see something called League Management. And under that, there are a bunch of little toolbox tools. I think there's about 9 of them out there. The one that you want is the one that says State Program Study and Action. And underneath there, what you will find is this wonderful study and action guide. It's a very, very thick document, but you can download it and store it. This particular one is good until 2021, 2023. And what you'll also find from there is the Impact on Issues document, which is the National League's version of Study and Action. So if you want to go out to get a little bit more information about the National League program and priorities, which should be fairly simple to what we're all doing because we were supposed to be complementing it, but you can go out there and find that document. All right, let's talk about working knowledge because you need to have working knowledge before you advocate. But what is working knowledge? It's general knowledge, and there's a lot of information out there. And what I would suggest to you is to pick 1 or 2 issues that you are most passionate about and do a deep dive. Do not feel like you have got to know scripture and verse on every single issue that's there. You just need a general understanding to know that if somebody says, well, how does the league feel about women's rights? Well, you will know enough to know that that is something that the league's concerned about, and we do have a position on it. You can say, I don't know it detailed, but yes, we do have a position on it, and be happy to get back to you on it, something along those lines. Okay, so once you are up to speed on all of the issues, I think probably the next question that you would have is, how do I plug in? Where do I go next? So let's talk about how you plug in to become a change champion. What I will say is how, where, and when you actually decide to plug in, if you want to do some advocacy or lobbying work for the league, has a lot to do with your time commitment, your activity level, and how forward-facing you want to be. And by forward-facing, I mean how much in the public eye do you want to be, or do you want to remain behind the scenes? Now, there are quite a few ways you can be involved as a league advocate or a constituent advocate. The first thing I put up here was join your observer corps or your government committee. I'm not sure, most leagues have that. You probably call it one or the other. Maybe you have both, but I find most only have one. So join one of those. If you want to advocate on local issues, that is the best way to do it. Now, if you want to advocate on state issues, you can respond to the action alerts that come from the state, but I would urge you to also consider joining one of the statewide action committees. And from that same drop down, if you go out to league management and you find those little tool icons out there, there's one that's called Statewide Action Team Leaders, and it has a list of all the statewide action teams and who's in charge of it, and you can make contact and get on their list. Now, if I'm looking at this specific this list, the ones where I've got the red bar are the most forward-facing, and they're also the most time-consuming. So meeting with your local officials, state legislators, speaking at county commission meetings, school board meetings, testifying in legislative committee meetings, and then speaking in solidarity at events. Those are all very forward-facing and require a time commitment. On the other hand, if your time is more limited or your activity level is lower, consider observing and taking notes on a meeting. And, you know, since the age of COVID, a lot of our meetings are streamed. You don't even have to be there in person. Just watch the meeting and then report back. Writing persuasive op-eds, editorials, and again, this is going to tie in so nicely with your workshop next week on that particular topic. Responding to action alerts, I mentioned that, but that's probably the easiest way for anybody in the league to plug in because it's so simple. You get an action alert from the state league or the national league. They actually have the text for you. All you've got to do is cut and paste. And for the most part, they've even given you the emails to the people that you need to contact. So it's very, very simple. And in terms of when do you need to do it, I mean, you've got a 24-hour time period, you're just going to be sending an email. And then there's standing or marching in solidarity at events. And then one final thing, and this is a very high energy option. If you like traveling to Tallahassee, join Lobby Corps. We are the boots on the ground. We testify, we speak, we march, we do it all. And I'm always looking for Lobby Corps members. So if that's something you're interested in, you see my email down there, just shoot me an email. All right, so what does advocacy look like? Everything on this page is a form of advocacy. These are examples from 2021 and 2022, and they are also extremely effective approaches, whether you're advocating for the league or whether you're just advocating for any other group or for yourself. So let's drill down into a couple of them. Okay, so speaking before city, county, and legislative officials at their scheduled meetings is one of my favorite. And the reason is that you've usually got them all corralled, they're all present. So you're speaking to everybody at the same time. I really enjoy that. Legislative delegations typically hold a town hall meeting when the public is invited to speak. Find out when your delegation is meeting, or when your city commission, your county commission, I mean, whoever the official is, find out when they're meeting and see if you can get on the agenda and advocate on behalf of yourself or on the league. And don't dismiss just observing, just showing up and observing. You know, the league is one of the most respected grassroots organizations in the country. We have a lot of members, and we're very well respected in our communities. And, you know, just showing up with your buttons on, especially if you show up 2 or 3 of you, show up with your buttons on, be that political force. I mean, just being there with name tags and buttons speaks volumes. Meeting directly with officials. This is a good way to educate and advocate. And don't feel snubbed if you're going to be interfacing most of the time with their assistants for an appointment, or if at the last minute your official doesn't show up and you end up actually advocating with their assistant. I personally find them extremely cordial, very knowledgeable, and very helpful. And if they aren't all of those things, they don't usually last too long. Now, lobbying during the interim and general sessions through testimony in committee is one of the primary techniques that is employed by Lobby Corps. This is our way of getting the league's position across. And as a bonus, when you're testifying in those committees, you're not just speaking to the legislators, you're speaking to everybody that's in that room, and you're speaking to everybody that is watching the Florida Channel live stream. And when the news media picks up our testimony, you are speaking sometimes statewide and nationwide. So it's an excellent way to advocate. And I will say that many private individuals go and testify for themselves or for other organizations or for the league. And if it's something that you're interested in doing, I'd be happy to help you get started. It's really not as intimidating as it looks and it sounds. Okay. More ideas, other ways to get involved. So press conferences. And again, this is whether you're just there in solidarity or you're there to speak. And then TV and radio interviews. They reach broad audiences, but I will tell you, be extremely careful when you're doing this. Accurate content is essential. And how you represent yourself, your demeanor is so important, because you are going to be out there in the ether forever. So make sure that what you want to say is what you actually do say. And Zoom, I love Zoom. I consider it an absolute blessing. In 2020 and 2021, it was the preferred method of contact for most of our officials, even our Republican friends. And you may have to get creative. We had a voter rally at the Capitol like we did this morning. We had one of those scheduled months ago, and it was around the time that the Delta variant hit. And we had to scrap that idea, and we did a vote rally, a car rally as our vote rally through downtown Tallahassee. And it was a ton of fun. Don't dismiss email. Most officials have organizational internet sites and email addresses. Use them for inviting officials to your events, for requesting meetings, for sharing educational materials, and any short publications that you may have. Social media is absolutely essential. If you're not tapped in, you're behind the times. Legislative aides, local official staff, and most of our senators, legislators, and officials are all online. They have to be. Phone numbers. Don't poo-poo phone calls or text messages. Sometimes in an official's online profile or directory, you will find phone numbers for them and for their staff. Now, a question that I get asked a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and answer it because I'm sure you're going to ask it, is what technique is better? Email, telephone. I mean, it's really hard to say. It is up to, when you're trying to meet with a legislator, it's up to that legislator and their staff as to what's going to work. I just try whatever works. You know, if I try something and it doesn't work, I try something else. What I will tell you is don't waste your stamp. Don't send snail mail because it won't be looked at. Take advantage of any opportune moment. Our communities are relatively small. You're going to see your officials at the grocery store. You're going to see them at a concert. You're going to see them at the ballpark. Wherever you manage to stumble upon someone, introduce yourself and advocate. And if you're not prepared with canned comments, just thank them for their service. Make sure they know who you are. And if you are their constituent, make sure that you say that you are their constituent. It's so important to thank them for their service and to let them know that you recognize that it's not easy making the decisions that they have to make when they've got so many different constituents pulling them in different directions. It's all about trying to humanize every official, and whether you are in agreement with their policies, you just want to get to know them. That is really so important. We have, as a league, very liberal values and policy positions, and we're not loved in all circles, but I assure you, we are more alike than we are different. Just be persistent. When you get pushback, just remind whoever it is that we are a nonpartisan organization. All we want to do is learn a little bit more about their position and have an opportunity to explain ours. So these are examples, and they are, I mean, any type of advocacy, there's tons of ways out there to do it. It's really only limited by our creativity and our ability to persuade our target audience to show up. I mean, it really gets down to that. So also part of getting involved in, you have got to have a plan. If you decide that you want to advocate, you've got to have a goal. You've got to have an end game. I mean, what are you planning to accomplish with your advocacy efforts? Who's on your team? And it can't just be you. You need to have a team. You need to have a team. You need to have roles and responsibilities. And identify who's your target audience. Is it the general public? Is it the TV audience? Is it one elected official? Is it a school board? Who is it? What advocacy or lobbying method will you use? And sometimes just the logistics or your audience is going to determine the method that you use. What I would suggest to you is that you always have a plan B, because you never know that plan A is going to be fulfilled. So have a plan B. Study the issues. We talked a great deal about that. Make sure that you know what you're talking about. Prepare talking points. Make sure that you know exactly what it is that you're going to say. And then importantly, make sure that you say it. Be extremely focused when you're advocating. Try to anticipate questions and be able to answer some of them. You are going to get pushback, I assure you. Make sure that you have some way to be able to respond to pushback, because the whole idea is to keep that conversation going. And if you're advocating for the league, your plan must be approved by your local president or the state league president. Approval is required, and there is a very important reason for that. It's called speaking with one voice. So it's probably the most important tenet, or one of the most important tenets of the league. So let's talk about what it means. So the National League determines strategies and policies that are consistent throughout the country. League policy, and you see that I have league policy underlined there. It's league policy that the president is the sole voice of the league at the national, state, and local level. And this is the best way for the league to ensure that consistent league voice. Now, the president may grant authority to another member to speak on his or her behalf. When in doubt, I would say if you're not sure if you have the authority to speak, you probably don't. So don't speak on behalf of the league. Now, let me give you an example. So, excuse me, when I'm at the Capitol, I'm advocating or lobbying legislators. That is a state responsibility, and my authority and my permission comes from Cecile Schoon. And it is always, what I'm about to say is always based on a strategic plan that we review every Friday. So I don't go to testify or speak without knowing what it is that I'm speaking about. And that generally comes from the issue chairs. They're the ones with the knowledge, and they know, importantly, what they want me to say. Now, if I'm advocating in Tallahassee, that's a local issue. Maybe I'm speaking to our commissioners, or who knows who I'm speaking to. But my authority there comes from President Dr. Sally Bootson, who is our local president. And I provide my plan to Sally, and she and the board review it and approve it. So hopefully that makes sense. But if you still have questions, put it in chat, and I'll see if I can maybe come up with a better way to explain it. Okay, moving on. So you've got to have a plan. We talked about that. You have to know your material. We talked about that. So know your material, be comfortable with your content, and know your audience. Those are extremely important things. And I'm going to repeat the importance of knowing what you're going to say. Make sure it's reviewed for tone and content accuracy. Because of the critical need for me to be spot on when I'm doing my testimony, and I said that it comes from, I get talking points from the issue chairs. I orchestrate and I script everything, and I rehearse because I have got to keep my comments tight and within a reasonable time frame. When I'm speaking in committee, sometimes I've got 30 seconds, I've got a minute, I've got 2 minutes, and rarely does it go beyond that because there's so many people that want to speak. So I have to make sure that I know exactly what I'm going to say and be able to say it because my time is going to be so limited. Do advanced research on your target audience if possible, so that you know what to expect in the way of acceptance of your message. You can check their websites, their social media. Usually it'll give you a general idea, or ask. Ask somebody that knows the group or the individual. Never assume somebody's position based on their party. You can be fooled. I've been. In the House and the Senate, there's vote history out there that you have access to. And also an official staff is an excellent way to find out their past and current positions. Make them your friend and you will reap great rewards. Use your resources to your best advantage. Make sure you know where your resources are and go out and check them quite often. You need to listen and be respectful. Find ways to agree, to disagree, but at least understand the other person's point of view. Sometimes it's just as simple as a reminder to the person that we are issue-based. We're not about political parties, regardless of what they may have heard. That might cut the ice. And again, we just want to better understand the official's position and to have him or her better understand ours. We need a basis for further conversation, so always be looking for common cause. If you are, well, let's talk about being a change champion, because that's really not a simple thing to do, although it sounds easy. And it can be challenging. And again, you have to accept the fact that you could be rebuffed, but perseverance is really key, and perseverance will be your friend. Represent us well. If you're speaking for the league, use the league's nonpartisan voice, not your own. Look and act professionally, and wear your league merchandise proudly. If you've got a name tag, a shirt, buttons, I mean, whatever it is. Now, if you are speaking for yourself or you are speaking an alternate position to the league, don't wear your league merchandise because we don't want to confuse people. And again, that goes back to speaking with that one voice. Now, I have one last resource for you, and that is my LobbyCorps guide, and it's available on your website, I believe. So go out and look. It's 27 questions and answers. It's geared for LobbyCorps downtown, but you may find a pearl of wisdom in there that would help you with your advocacy and lobbying efforts. So with that, let me do a time check. All right, I've got 8 o'clock. How long is your session? Jane, you need to unmute.
Yeah, okay. We're Central Time, so we have 30 more minutes for us. That'll
Oh, you have 30 more minutes. Oh,
so,
okay.
us and
All right. Well, I have one last slide that I wasn't sure if you guys might be interested in this, but I did do, I've been at the Capitol most of the day, so I didn't do as much of a deep dive as I wanted to do. But if you are interested in some of the things that are going on right now in terms of bills, I'm happy to give you a little thumbnail.
Yes, we're very interested in that.
Okay, very good. All right. So again, I didn't have as much time to dig in as I would have liked. But in terms of redistricting, if you're not up to speed on that, the legislative maps that identify the new redistricting boundaries for the 40 Senate seats as well as the 120 House seats have already been approved through both houses, and they were sent to the Florida Supreme Court, and no one on the Supreme Court challenged them. So that's a pretty good indication that if they get anything back officially from the Florida Supreme Court, it will be an approval. Now, just so you know, the legislative maps can become law without the governor's intervention in any way. So I'm assuming that what we've all seen and what we've all disliked is going to become the redistricting legislative maps. Now, when we're talking about the congressional maps, that's a whole different thing, because you probably know that the governor got involved. The Senate actually completed their congressional map, but before they did, the governor submitted his own, which eliminated Al Lawson's District 5. The Senate ignored it, passed their own. Well, the governor didn't like that. So he actually submitted an inquiry to the Supreme Court, which they then ignored. They basically said, no, we're not going to rule on this. But I'm sure that the governor is not going to let that one go. Now, the House has not completed their congressional maps. So it's quite likely that the governor will be able to influence what they do. And then, of course, they, the final thing is they have to agree on the maps. So I'm sure the governor's going to get his word in there. Now, I will say that our State League President, Cecile Schoon, has testified at every single redistricting hearing that has been held in the House and the Senate. I attended a couple of them with her, and she has, her line has been very clear to them that we do not believe that what they are doing adequately reflects the growth of minorities and unfairly favors the Republican Party over the Democratic Party. Now, that criticism could portend litigation. Who knows? I think it's really going to come down to what does that congressional map look like? Now, I will say that, that group, the Fair Districts Coalition, I always forget their name, but the Fair Districts Coalition is the group that we were part of before when we sued, the suit that it was League of Women Voters and a whole bunch of others. We were part of that coalition. The coalition on the House and the Senate maps, they've pretty much said we're going to pause. We're not going to do anything. We're going to wait and see what happens with the congressional maps. But I think they were quite stunned that the Florida Supreme Court didn't challenge anything in the maps when we, as part of the coalition, thought that they would. Now, there's a couple of bills out there that are really horrendous. House Bill 663 and Senate Bill 1004 is a recall of county officers and commissioners. This is a horrible, horrible local government preemption issue. This is, once again, the state government coming in with their big hand and saying, we know more than local voters do. Because what these bills would do is to change the state constitution to allow the state legislature to recall county commissioners and officers. Now, they can recall without any type of limitations. They can recall them without any reason for the recall, other than they're just unhappy with what they've done, and without any ability for redress. And I've said to a couple of people in committee, not to the legislators, of course, but I said to them, questioning minds wonder if this is the real intent is just to punish those rogue local officials who adopted policies that the governor or the state legislature, the majority party, didn't like. So, another one. House Bill 1127 and Senate Bill 1412, limiting subject to constitutional amendments. Every single year, so I've been lobby corps chair for the past 3 years, but I've been involved with the Florida legislature a lot longer than that. And I can't tell you how many times they have brought up this, well, we need to address the constitutional amendments because the Florida Constitution is getting so big. The national, the US Constitution fits in your pocket, but the Florida Constitution is just huge. You have to carry it around in a briefcase. And when I got up to testify against, of course, my comment was the state constitution has been amended more by representatives and senators than it has by constitutional amendment of the public. And if they take that away from us, I mean, really think about it. This is our way of saying to them, listen, you guys are not paying attention to us. So we're going to file, excuse me, a constitutional amendment to try to get you to pay attention, and we're going to put it on the ballot. And I went back and looked, and what we've done that the legislature refused to do in the past couple of years is raise the minimum wage. I mean, how many times was that proposed, but it never passed? The restoration of voting rights, of course, we got that passed, but then they came back and added all kinds of other things to it that made it horrible. Voter control of gambling, that was part of a citizens initiative that they're trying to block. Medical marijuana and the standards for redistricting. These are all things that we have been able to get through with our citizen initiative. So we don't want it limited, but it's going to pass, I'm quite sure. Then Senate Bill 524, House Bill 7061, the establishment of the election police, and that's a voter suppression bill. That's part of what we were rallying about today, this afternoon at that meeting. So the league has sued them for Senate Bill 90, which was last year. We're in federal court the past couple of weeks trying to see how that plays out. There are a number of Democrats who urged the committee chairs to put a pause on both of these bills and just wait to see what happens with Senate Bill 90, because this is just more of the same. But no, they decided to move forward. So what these bills do is it creates the election police. Well, we don't need election police. I mean, that smacks of voter intimidation. It will increase the cap on penalties for mistakes made by third-party voter registration organizations. That's us. $1,000 for, an error was bad enough, and that was the maximum penalty. Well, now the maximum penalty is $50,000. My goodness, what are our budgets? Our budgets aren't even that much. So under education, this one was horrible. Senate Bill 148, House Bill 7, the individual freedom, which protects the freedom of students and employees from having to learn history or concepts that might cause discomfort, guilt, or anguish. Schools and employers could be sued. And one of the terrible examples by the sponsors was the diversity, equity, and inclusion program that the Disney companies was having their employees go through. I'm sure it was just quite demoralizing for some people. And I'm saying that very tongue-in-cheek. Senate Bill 1300, House Bill 1467, censorship of school materials. And again, this is kind of tied back into that individual freedom. It discounts the cultural history of minority students who now make up the majority of students in our Florida schools. teaching, teaching this quasi history, this fake history. I don't understand it. House Bill 5, you probably heard that House Bill 5 passed in chamber. House Bill 5 is that horrible Mississippi abortion bill that the Republicans have adopted with absolutely no exceptions for rape, incest, or trafficking. And I heard something so troubling when I was listening last night to the meeting. The bill sponsor, Representative Erin Grahl, in her closing comment, said something that is just I'm just still so troubled by it. She said, all you want to do is talk about choice, but nobody's talking about the choice between the man and the woman that resulted in the pregnancy. Well, I want to know what choice there was when a woman was raped, or what choice there was when a woman was trafficked, what choice there was when a young child was abused by her father, her uncle, her brother. I mean, I don't know. It's just like this absence of tone deaf. All I can say is, some people are just tone deaf. So now we're waiting to see what happens with the Senate bill. The governor has already said that he's going to sign. All it has to do is come to his desk. So folks, that's where we are with that one. Healthcare, every year we try to get Medicaid modernization. This died in November without a House companion, so that one's gone. There are some good natural resources, clean energy bills that are up that we are hoping. I mean, so far they've passed their committees. We're just hoping that they stay. The implementation of the blue-green algae recommendations that we've been waiting on for quite a while. That's Senate Bill 832, House Bill 561. It's been moving favorably. We've, of course, been to most of the meetings and testified in favor of them. And land acquisition trust funds, I think there's either 4 or 6 bills. I can't remember, but the Land Acquisition Trust Fund was set up by Constitutional Amendment 1 that was passed by the voters in 2014. And this is just trying to implement those funds. I'm hoping that those make it through, but keep in mind, folks, that in any given year, there can be up to 4,000 bills filed, and only a couple of hundred of them ever become law. So even though there's some out there that we're very happy about and we're hoping that they'll move forward, that doesn't mean it's going to happen, because they won't be part of that 200 or whatever it is that are actually selected. Let's see, what else? Oh, net metering. That's horrible. This is, we've made so many great strides with solar energy in the state. Senate Bill 1024 and House Bill 741. These bills would just decimate Florida's growing rooftop solar energy industry. And in committees, there have been so many people, so many business owners and workers from around the state coming and testifying about what this is going to do to the industry and jobs. I mean, everything. But they're moving forward right now. Senate Bill 1024 is in rules. I mean, that's pretty much, the next step is get it calendared on the Senate floor, and House Bill 741 is in community affairs. That one hasn't moved, but who knows? See what happens next. So that's pretty much all I was able to very quickly pull together after I got home today. So with that, That's all, folks. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Let's see.
And let me stop sharing.
There we go.
Folks, do we have any questions? If you've got a question and you'd like to unmute and ask, and just so you know, the Lobbying 101 guide that Trish referred to, that's on our website. I also posted the direct link in chat, so you could tap that link in chat and it would open up. But if you're looking for it on our website, it's on the program page. And I just labeled it as Lobbying 101 because that name is perfect for it. So so if you'd like to look at that, it's wonderful. I didn't have time to go through all of it today, but I was almost late for the meeting because I was looking at it and didn't want to rip myself away. So is there somebody that's got a question? How about Jennifer? Jennifer Wazelenko, you've got your hand up. It would be great if you could unmute and ask.
Hi, I was just curious if you had a read on how likely it was for that, I think it's SB 146, the abortion bill, to get through the Senate.
My read is that it's going to get through. I think if there's any hope, it's that some of the senators might be able to amend it and get some provisions for rape, incest, and trafficking, because they're horrible. It's horrible to not have any exceptions in that bill whatsoever. It's terrible, but I do think it's going to pass.
Oh, gosh. Okay. And Paula, you had your hand up. Did you want to unmute and ask your question?
Just wonder what you have heard about the bill that is going to make school boards not have any remuneration, take away all their salaries.
That has been amended. I'm trying to think what the number is, and I'd look it up for you. You don't have the number, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay. Even the governor said that he didn't like the taking away of salaries or reducing the salaries. He felt that there was a better way to do it. So I'm not sure. I wish I could have had a chance to look at that a little bit closer before I logged on here. I haven't been following that one this week because House Bill 5 and 7 were out there, and I really needed to focus some of my energies on it. So I'm not sure where it stands. Sorry.
Thank you.
Enid, you had a question?
I did. My question is, how effective do you really believe the cut and paste emails are? You know, when they get a whole bunch of emails that clearly were sent to people to just cut and paste and put that in there. Do you think those are effective?
You know, I think anytime that we send an email, regardless of whether it's a cut and paste email, I mean, somebody's got to look at it. Somebody's got to count how many pros and cons. I think it's effective. I mean, I think, you know, it's probably not as effective as going up and, you know, getting in somebody's face, but I don't dismiss anything, you know, truly. Anything that we can do to try to make an impact, I think it's important to do.
Pam Schwartz? Do you want to unmute? Oh,
Hear
there
me?
you go.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Just piggybacking on Enid's, did I hear you say that snail mail is pointless and useless? And based on the cut and paste email, I have tuned in once in a while on a weekly basis with the Florida Education Association who has a issue and bills that are important, and they have like an hour of power where they will give bill numbers or an issue, and the committee members, the sponsors of the bill, and they ask people to call and leave messages. The times that I was doing that, I was getting their answering machines, and sometimes the answer box was full. So if we can't do even postcards with an urgent issue and a bill number, and snail mail's not working, I'm just so fearful they're not paying attention to us at all and blocking anything out that we do. We have been trying to train some of our members with retired educators to, if we can ever meet more in person, to use cell phones and do something of the sort that FEA has been doing, that this is the issue, this is the basic script that we want you to focus on. Don't go into too much detail, but call these numbers right now and leave this message. So is that something that is being more effective in these days of smartphones and that kind of thing?
You know, it's really hard to say. And sometimes it has to do with who it is that you're trying to contact and who their staff is. I do everything that I can possibly do. I email, I call, and like your experience, I've had phone mailboxes that are completely full and they won't take any more messages. Generally, I don't have that with email. And, you know, like I said, they have to keep track of contact that's being made. I mean, if they don't, they're stupid, because if they're not paying attention to their constituents, that's just crazy. So I know in some of the representatives and the senators' offices, where I actually know the staff, they keep track of everything. I don't know that somebody asked me this question, then I'm going to check with Jeff Sharkey, our lobbyist, when he and I talk tomorrow. They wanted to know if every contact that was made had to be kept because it was in the sunshine. And I don't know the answer to that. But I do know that of the staff that I'm aware of, they do keep a tally. They keep a tally of how many pros and how many cons. They will generally respond to emails. I've never had anybody not respond to an email. Now, when I've tried to reach our congressman, I've had a little bit more difficulty just in terms of timing. Sometimes I don't get something back from Congressman Dean for maybe 2 weeks, but I do finally get a response. But like I said, just, you know, whatever it is that you can do it, because we will make breakthroughs. I mean, and maybe it's a better way is do an op-ed. You know, get something out there in the paper. You know, the reality, folks, is that right now, the majority party is not being influenced like the League of Women Voters would like for it to be influenced. That's why we've got to start making more inroads. We've got to start having real dialogues, you know, getting on the agenda with some of these folks that we just simply can't understand their position, because I assure you, they can't understand ours either. So we've got to get this meeting of the minds. Now, we are at a disadvantage with the majority party because right now they're being ruled by the party and not by their own logic or by their constituents as much. But that's got to change, you know, and keep in mind, we've been at this for 102 years now. So, you know, I'm not giving up hope. I'm just going to be out there doing what I can do.
Perseverance is,
Yeah.
I'll exercise First Amendment till my dying breath. So stand up,
Oh.
speak out, take action is the name of the game.
Yep.
That's a perfect lead into our program for next week. I'm
Yeah,
very excited about the writing workshop that Terry Horn will do for us. And now we know what to bring to the meeting, our advocacy areas and topics and research. And that's going to be a good opportunity.
Yeah, well, good. This was timely.
was
When I was
very
out, I like to, before I do a presentation at any league, I like to go out and poke around their websites. And I saw that out there and I thought, oh my gosh, how wonderful and what perfect timing, a workshop on writing persuasive articles. I like that.
I'm excited about it too. Well, let me just say that we appreciate so much you taking your time at the end of a very, very busy day, doing the work that is critical for things to happen. And we appreciate you doing that with us. And I've learned a whole lot. I have. And
Well, good. I assure you it was my pleasure. If there's one thing I think is the most righteous work, it is advocating for the League of Women Voters. And I love to do it. So, and I love to talk about it. So thank you for having me.
okay. Thank you. Thank you again, Trish. We all really appreciated it. And, it's obvious that you're passionate about that. It comes through definitely in your presentations. And I just wanted to ask, would it be all right if can we use your PowerPoint? Could we post that online too, or do you prefer us not to?
For your league,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Well,
no,
even if we could just use it for some of our in-league activities.
oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
because-
No, anything that I do for the league, I consider league property.
yeah. Some of those.
I was just a little nervous about, putting
Okay,
out there.
yeah.
Yeah.
I made notes I had an unfair advantage. I could look at the slide numbers, but some of those recipes for planning, that I really felt, and effective advocacy, I really felt that those charts would be so helpful for us to use when we're doing planning and trying to figure out where our next move is. So I thought those were wonderful. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. So it was
Okay.
a pleasure to meet you all.
Yes, thank you so much for coming, and thanks everybody else for coming. I've got the big red button, so I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting for all. I would say safe home, everybody, but you're already there. So bye.